Hello, my sweet children, and welcome back to another episode of That Bald Guy Yelling About Motorcycles on the Internet. Again, I'm glad you're here. I'm extremely glad. Have I expressed my gratitude lately? Besides some of the most obvious differences between a motorcycle and a car, looks, wheel count, or even function, we're going to take a look at some of the specific differences between the two. Motorcycles often have a reputation for being scary, but it's mostly because normies don't understand the key differences. There's actually loads of similarities, but let's look at the main differences today. Before we jump in though, you've got to know about the motorcycles I'm giving away. We've got a brand new Yamaha R3 and Suzuki SV650 up for grabs. That's right, brand spanking new. If you click the link below to my merch, every dollar you spend gets you an entry to win, or you can sign up on our Patreon. We've got over 1,000 people on there on our Discord server and support the episodes and earn chances to win that way. Click both links and learn how to get started because you're not going to want to miss out on this one, I promise. And of course, smash that subscribe button for me. We put out high quality motorcycle content on a near daily basis, so there's always something to check out, so go do that. Now, if you're looking to become a rider, consider these differences first. Becoming a first-time rider can be exciting as well as troublesome for those who aren't prepared. Number 1, control. The first difference between motorcycles and cars is control. Motorcycles are controlled with literally the rider's entire body, from clutching and braking with your hands to shifting and braking with your feet. You will use your entire body just to move at a mere 5 miles per hour. In fact, moving slowly is more difficult than moving quickly. As your speed increases, so does the amount of control that's required by your body. Leaning into corners, looking where to go, and using a combination of your extremities is simply the norm. Cars don't require this physical intensity to drive. Cars only require hands and feet from the comfort of a seating position. No matter the speed, turn radius, or weather, positions remain relatively the same. It's crazy to think how appliance-like cars are in comparison to bikes, especially automatic cars. You press a button, air conditioning comes on, and then you just need to worry about 2 pedals. How do people crash these things? Seriously. Oh right, phones. Motorcycles have a whole lot more going on. Learn it. Number 2, steering. Turning a car is as simple as turning the wheel. No matter the speed, steering is always consistent with the car. Let's assume we're not Formula D drivers, so when we steer a car right, we go right. As drivers, we can look at the road, the sky, our media player, the dashboard. It doesn't really matter. For the most part, cars remain in the direction that we desire them to go. It's possible to cruise on the highway and search for our favorite song for an extended period of time, though it's really not advised. Enter the backwards and slightly confusing world of motorcycles. At low speeds, the handlebars are turned in the direction of the turn. Going left, turn your handlebars left. Don't forget to look left. Looking is imperative to making a motorcycle go in the direction you want to go. Now at higher speeds over 10 miles per hour, if you want to make the same turn, you're going to push your handlebar down, effectively turning your front wheel right. You're still looking left to go left. Confusing? It's called counter-steering. It only applies to motorcycles and bicycles. Your three-wheel tricycles will never steer this way. Ever. And that's why I do not accept you. As speeds increase and corners become sharper, turning now involves the rider's entire body. The bike must now be leaned over to the inside of the turn. The sharper and faster the turn, the more the bike must be leaning. Not leaning enough can lead to running off the road, while leaning too far can result in low-side crashes. Number 3, comfort. A motorcycle is basically a trade-off of creature comforts for freedom. Bikes don't have and don't come with a lot of the amenities of cars. Climate control, music, adjustable seating? No. Some cruisers and bigger bikes have radios, but sport bikes and regular motorcycles don't come with such features. The creature comforts being removed allow the rider to be distraction-free. Sure, you can get a phone mount, Bluetooth audio, and even a cup holder for your bike, and nowadays with TFT dashes, you can see all kinds of stuff. The new BMW S1000RR has built-in navigation, but chances are you'll be using these things out of practicality and not luxury. From the factory, most bikes simply don't come with these things because they aren't a necessity. Motorcycling is about the rider and the machine, the perfect match between humanity and technology. Together we ride for the thrill, the hobby, the leisure, and the enjoyment. Flipping through your playlist at 75 miles per hour is not advised because it's a distraction. Sure, we all know someone who can text and ride just like they can pop a woolie down the highway and sit on their gas tank. How comfortable you get on your bike is up to you. For most, we're not trying to do anything except ride where we are going. Number 4, performance mods. Have you ever slung a shiny new exhaust system on your old Fox Body Mustang? Have you ever done a long tube headers on your Chevy Pushrod V8? Do you remember how much your butt dyno felt the increase in powers? Huge gains do not apply to bikes. Performance mods are plentiful for bikes, but the benefits and the effects are not the same as cars. For most V8s, changing out the factory exhaust can net a gain of anywhere from 20 to 30 more horsepower. Putting a full system on your bike might not even fetch you 10 more ponies. Engines are smaller, displacements are smaller, and for most bikes, the factory exhaust is ample enough for street or track use. Most riders opt for the slip-on, which dramatically alters the sound and adds maybe 1 or 2 more horsepower. For the most part, it's not even comparable to the gains of a catback exhaust found on cars. Some cars see respectable gains from K&N and other high-flow aftermarket filters and intakes reaching upwards of 20 horsepower on V8s and anything turbocharged. For a bike, picking up 1 or 2 horsepower is considered normal. The cost of the parts can be the same, $1,800 for a full Yoshimura exhaust system on an R1, but the total gain might only be 10 or 15 horsepower depending on the tuning, and that's a lot, honestly. To make matters worse, the total gain will be realized only after this tuning. Dollar per horsepower is not the same ratio on bikes as it is for cars. Get prepared to spend a lot of money on expensive mods that probably won't give you the gains you're looking for. You can't drop in an air filter on a 99 horsepower bike and expect a 20 horsepower gain. That'd be 20% and insane. You will feel the gains, however, most riders respond positively when adding full exhaust, high flow filters, and tunes to their bike. The downside is the cost. Bikes do have an advantage over cars in one aspect: weight. For cars, weight seems to be a challenge for racing. Components simply weigh too much, and changing body panels to carbon fiber and gutting interiors takes away from some of the finer amenities a car offers. For bikes, weight savings become amplified due to the power to weight ratio of the bike. When a 450 horsepower motorcycle drops 15 pounds through lighter wheels, a racing exhaust, or some other components, the effects of the weight loss become substantial. Losing weight is just as effective as increasing the performance of a bike as basic mods. Remember also, you can skip fast food for a couple weeks and drop the weight on your body yourself, and it will make a huge difference. Number 5, engines. Motorcycle engines can be uniquely different from those of a car. For the most part, motorcycles use 4-stroke engines just like cars. The differences come from the piston size relative to displacement and other configurations. The inline 4-cylinder, V-twin, and V4 and boxer engines would be the most relatable to those of cars. The 2-strokes and single cylinders would be the most different. How the engines perform is a big difference as well. In cars and trucks, you're probably used to shift points and red lines between 5,500 and 9,000 RPM. With motorcycles, double that. Seriously, some bikes rev to 14,000 RPM without any issues, while others can redline to 16,000 RPM. Papa Yams, you cry out. How is this poppable? Poppable? Possible. Wow. Well, Squidlets, just like the Ant can carry 20 times its weight, the pistons of a Ducati Panigale V4R measure at 3.19 inches in diameter. The engine redlines at 16,500 RPMs in 6th gear. Compared to a Chevy LS1 engine with a piston diameter of 3.898 inches, the redline from factory is only 6,200 RPM. The difference in piston size is 49%. The larger the piston, the lower the redline. Exceptions are made for race-only and performance applications. The length of the stroke matters as well. A shorter stroke means you can usually rev harder. Number 6, drivetrains in motorcycles are different from cars. The most common types of drive systems are mesh transmissions that drive a belt, chain, or shaft connected to the rear wheel directly. Much like the ring and pinion gear changes in muscle cars, bikes, especially sport bikes with chains, can undergo changes with their chain and sprocket. The front sprocket on the transmission and the rear sprocket on the wheel ultimately determine the final drive of the transmission. Trying to rip some dank Nooners, but you're struggling? Change those sprockets by as little as 1 tooth and you will get an instant boost in acceleration. Sprockets have teeth which engage the chain. When the number of teeth increases or decreases, so will the acceleration. For cars, engines and transmissions remain separate units that are joined together through a clutch or torque converter. For motorcycles, everything comes in one complete unit. This means that the engine, clutch, and transmission are all submerged in the same engine oil. And number 7, maintenance and mileage. Cars are not pushing out oil change mileage intervals above 12,000 RPMs. Nope, miles, 12,000 miles. Wow. For motorcycles, we tend to change our oil sooner rather than later. Since the engine oil lubricates the engine, clutch, and transmission, the interval becomes shorter. Some service manuals suggest 4,000 to 12,000 miles, but some owners insist on changing the oil sooner in the 2,000 to 3,500 mile range. For chain-driven bikes, cleaning and lubing the chain becomes a task around every 500 miles or after a particularly dirty ride. When it comes to other maintenance items such as air filters, spark plugs, and even clutch packs, the norm can be as needed. Cars typically run 100,000 mile spark plugs with no issues of misfiring throughout their lives. With higher revving motorcycles, spark plug changes can be scheduled for shorter intervals such as 4,000 miles, or even needed to be changed every riding season. A clutch in a car can last literally the life of the car depending on the driver, but just the same, the clutch on a bike could need replacement at any mileage. Do you remember the MSF course bikes? They probably need a new clutch with every 1,000 miles or so, given how much they are abused. These are just a few of the maintenance tasks you'll need to get used to on a bike. Since we normally don't store our daily driven cars over the winter, there's no issue for cars, leave them outside. For bikes, we need to put them in places for the long cold winters. Storing them includes pulling the battery, putting the bike on stands to prevent tire flat spotting, and then covering it depending on its location. It's not uncommon for people in your apartments to use their kitchens or living rooms as bike storage. Your Turbo Boost fits nicely behind the couch you'll be sleeping on when your girlfriend sees it for the first time. Don't try the bedroom unless your significant other is into that. Alright guys, thanks so much for checking out today's upload. I really do appreciate it. Remember to check out those links below to learn how you can win a free motorcycle, join our wonderful community, and just support the channel. Speaking of that community, Helga Thor, one of our users on our Discord server, has a shout out he'd like me to mention, as that is that the VFR 800, while a wonderful motorcycle, has no place in the modern world when so many machines are more specialized. Sorry, Trevor. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you again in the next one. See you later. Fact: handshakes were originally meant to make sure that the person you were meeting was not carrying a concealed weapon. The hand clasp proved that your hand was empty, and shaking it was meant to dislodge any weapons hiding up the sleeve. The more you know. Goodbye.